There is one horror author I recommend to nearly everyone that comes in my store, whether they're currently a horror reader or someone interested in reading horror for the first time. This author is always a win for me. It's always a rec. And today I want to share with you the one and only Philip Fracassi. One of the reasons I'm so confident in my recommendations about Philip Fracassi's work is I've never had a single customer come back to me and say, it was okay. Or, yeah, I didn't really dig it. I'm glad you're excited about him, but he's really not my style. Every single person I've recommended this book to who has returned to the store to talk about it has praised his work. Also, I've had a lot of customers who've come in who've read one of his books, and when I remind them of his most recent releases, they light up like a Christmas tree. They almost always jump right into one of his books as their next reads, and they just kind of need that reminder about, hey, he just put out Sarafina, for example. Philip Fracassi is one of those writers who has an excellent balance of story and voice without his prose ever taking center stage. It's polished, it's sharp, it's unique, it's succinct, it's lush. It's all the things you kind of want in that balanced approach from what I deem to be kind of like a classic horror vibe with a contemporary polish to it. Philip Fracassi's first book that I read was Boys in the Valley. And that book is like early 1900s, frigid winter, Pennsylvania Valley, boys' home, orphanage, run by some hard-edged priests. In the middle of the night, the door gets kicked in and the sheriff and his constables come rushing in, and one of them is possessed with some, I don't want to give too much away, but there's something going on there. They need the priest to help. And what we end up with is like a cross between Lord of the Flies and The Exorcist, which is an absolute banger of a classic horror feel. The cover's great, the storyline's fantastic, and it is a bit slow burn, but in the best of ways. So if you're looking for a good, kind of historic horror, slow burn, classic vibe, Boys in the Valley is a win every single time. Now, my most recent read of his is Sarafina, and Sarafina is also historical fiction. Also historical horror. This one is about three brothers who defect from the Confederate Army, and they're trying to make their way back home. Of course, they're being hunted because they defected, and things are not going well for them. Let's just say they're on death's door when they stumble upon this kind of lush, unexpected property in the middle of a forested swamp. And there's a woman and her young child living there, a young boy. And let's just say she's not what you think she is. This place is not what you think it is. That boy is not who you think he is. And at the point in the story where you discover all of this and things really start ramping up on this front, you realize you have so much story left to go. There's so much to unpack here. There's so much that's going to happen. And it was a really exciting moment for me about halfway through the book to realize that, oh my gosh, what would normally end up being this kind of final destination in the story for a lot of horror writers is not for him. And that's one of the magic things that I think Fracassi does, is he's got this great pacing about his work. From my perspective as a bookseller, I think what makes him stand out the most is that, like I was saying, he does have kind of like this classic horror vibe, but he doesn't sound like he's trying to sound like a classic horror author. He doesn't sound like he's mimicking King, but if you're a King fan, Stephen King fan, you're going to love Philip Fracassi's stories and his voice. Now, most of the people I end up recommending his books to are people that are looking for something different. They haven't read him before, and they're looking for an author that they know they can latch onto and follow through several books as a fan of the author, not just an individual story. Every single time I recommend Fracassi because he is that kind of writer to me. He's the kind of writer that you invest in. He's not just a single story type of write. He jumps around. He's even done science fiction with The Third Rule of Time Travel, which also on my TBR. And he just has this great way of making every story stand out in a wonderful way, but also just staying absolutely true to who he is as a writer. He doesn't try to morph into some other type of voice or some other type of talent just to fit a genre. He does exactly what he does everywhere he writes, in every story, and it just sings every time. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Philip Fracassi. I think he's one of those authors that if you're not currently reading him, you need to pick up some of his work and give it a chance. Again, my next read of his is the Autumn Springs Retirement Home Massacre, and I cannot wait to dive into this one. And it's not currently out in paperback. It's only in hardcover right now. This one was published by Nightfire. And this was one of my favorite pickups at Horror Reader Weekend in November up in the Hudson Valley. Shout out to Christine Harold for hosting Horror Reader Weekend. And that was my opportunity to sell Philip's books for the first time and then hang out with him for the weekend and really get to know him. So like I said, you guys should definitely check out Philip Fracassi's work. I recommend starting with Boys in the Valley, then reading Sarafina, and then jumping into his other books. You can always pick up his books on Spineless Reads. If you go on our website, spinelessreads.com, you can search for his books. If you don't see him there, you can always buy them on bookshop.org and select Spineless Reads as your bookstore and share profits with us through your bookshop.org purchase. We would really appreciate that. And of course, you can always buy his audiobooks through libro.fm, and they also share that profit with us. And if we haven't met yet, my name is Lucas. I'm a horror writer, publisher, and owner of Spineless Reads, an indie bookstore here in Williamsburg, Virginia. I thank you guys for checking out this video. Like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video.